What's good, y'all? Welcome to my review for this week's episode of the Bleach 1000-Year Blood War anime. First of all, this episode was fucking fantastic, man. Amazing art and animation once again from Period. Not only in the fight, but also the fucking food, bro. Bro, that food looked fucking delicious, bro. Now, before we jump right into this review, some major, huge anime news drop that I need to tell you guys about in case you guys did not know. This isn't Bleach related or nothing, but this is such a major thing that I don't give a fuck. I want to tell you guys in case you guys didn't hear it already or see it on Twitter and whatnot. And that is that Monster, you guys know the anime series based off the manga of the same name from the early to mid from like the 2000s. That's like, you know, very acclaimed. Everyone loves Monster, but it's been in licensing purgatory for like over a decade. Well, Netflix secured the rights for it, and it's going to be airing at least on US Netflix on January 1st. So if you're someone like me that's obviously heard all about Monster, you've heard everyone singing its praises and every night, and you've been wanting to watch it, but obviously, you know, you gotta pirate it and everything, and you know, all that shit. Now, no more. It is coming to the US Netflix on January 1st. I'm hoping that means with the English dub, and hopefully it's not like Ava where they end up redubbing the series for whatever reason. Hopefully they have the original English dub with it, but if they redub it, I don't give a fuck. I'm just glad Monster is going to be available on streaming platforms later than early next year. I'm just happy it's gonna be coming in so soon. So yeah, I'm probably even gonna start binging it like the second it's on Netflix. I might start working on that one. That might be a show I'll start working on after I get through my top tens for that year. And yeah, I'm super excited, man. I'm super excited for Monster finally be on Netflix because I heard a lot of great things about it, and I've always wanted to give it a watch, but haven't really had the chance to, and just don't really have the time now. With it coming to Netflix, you bet your ass I'm gonna get started on that. But yeah, just wanted to give you guys a heads up in case you guys did not already hear about Monster. But yeah, without further ado, let's just jump right into the actual episode. So he starts us off with Nanano entering Shunsui's like room, and she's like knocking on and being like, Captain, Captain. He doesn't answer, so she just lets herself in. And then we see that Shunsui has gotten this message from, I guess, the higher ups of the Soul Society, or this council we later see him in later on in the episode, where it's announced that this man got the promotion of a promotion, where he's not only the head captain of, I'm assuming, just the Soul Reapers in general, but he's also the captain of Squad 1, meaning he has basically taken over Yamamoto's place in the Soul Society. And he's like, and then he tells her that it might be time for us to say goodbye, give me a break. We then cut over back to Ichigo, and yes, the Rukia Butcher was still nowhere to be seen, so it seems like they're not good lady, we're saving it for the next episode or something. Now, granted, Bianca and Rukia are still in the hot tub. They're still in the hot spring. So maybe once they are finally out there, which I don't know, maybe we'll see that next week or something, or maybe not at all. The next time we'll just see them, they'll be fine. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, they'll seem like we're going to get that Rukia butt shot, which apparently people are actually like dropping the anime because of, like, I saw some tweets. I think this is like from 4chan or something. So take what I say here with a grain of salt, and it's coming from there. That apparently people are like legitimately pissed off that it wasn't in there, that they're dropping the anime because it got cut. It's honestly pretty scary. These fucking these Rookie fans are something else, bro. They're something else, bro. Anyway, although to be fair, probably not just them. It's just probably just weirdos in general. Either way, we're back with the hot spring, and we see that we have two of Tenjiro's guys are submerging Ichigo and counting up to 100. And so Ichigo just ends up like getting himself back up there, kicking one of the guys out so he can get back up. And then he screams like, "You failed! Didn't your parents teach you as a kid?" And then Ichigo's like, "What kind of parent submerges their child underwater, makes them count to 100?" And then he has the two guys again, Kazuo and Kazuhiro, for pronouncing their names right. They try once again trying to submerge Ichigo back into the water, which they manage to do, but Ichigo manages to fight out of it. Before then, he is then punched by Tenjiro, and where we see that Ichigo is completely fine. He is healed because this towel he had, like, I'm assuming it was like right on top of his head, which I believe James actually mentioned this in his review for the last episode, and was questioning whether or not they would cut this scene or not. But it was here, where it says that if the towel on his head wasn't there, he would have not survived inside the blood hell, the bone blood hell, or whatever the fuck this hot spring was called again. Seriously, bro, the names of these hot springs or something else, bro. Anyway, and then of course he says, "Look, your wounds are all gone." We get a nice shot of Ichigo's head, which I'm sure all the fangirls were looking at respectfully. I'm sure. I mean, hey, you know, listen, man. You know, us dudes, we get tons of fan service in our series. We always get our boobs. We also got some nice tits action, well, in this episode as well. But hey, it's not wrong to let the girls have some of the action too. Let them admire and stare at Ichigo's ass. So hey, there you go. So there you go, ladies. You get to admire Ichigo's ass. Anyway, he tells them he's finished here, and that's when Renji stands up and basically says that it's time that he's basically ready to go as well. And so Tenshinro then punches Renji in the midsection, but my man does not move a millimeter. And he says, well, if you can survive my punch, you're good. So then he has them once again sit on that platform again, and then he has the guys, hit the platform with like the hammer thing that blasts them all to the next plate, to the next, I guess, headquarters of one of the other Squad Zero members. And then he tells the other guys that they can take off their gear they're wearing, which I guess was like some protective gear so that they could survive inside the hot springs without, I guess, without them exploding or whatever. Because that's what they mentioned in the episode, that without these, our muscles would have eroded, and they would have ruptured if we didn't have this gear on there. And they said, like, damn, Ichigo was able, and Renji were able to stand here just completely naked like it was nothing. And then we find out that when he went to strike Ichigo's reflexes managed to, like, I guess, hit or, like, maybe block the attack a little bit. Either way, Ichigo ended up fracturing Tenjiro's hand, in which you could actually see him, even before, you can see him having his hand already submerged into the hot spring to let it heal up, which I thought was a nice little attention to detail thing. I noticed once I was watching the episode that he already had his hand in it before we saw him actually, mention it, that his hand was fractured. Anyway, after that, that's when we head over back to the Central 46 Underground Assembly Hall, which I'm assuming is just the council of the Soul Society of the Serente. This is the quiet council of the Serente. And one of the council members screams, two lieutenants. Now, from here, the subtitles were a bit weird, where they kind of just like lingered on Central 46 Underground Assembly Hall 4, Assembly Hall, and didn't switch over to the actual subtitles, so that text was gone. So I'm pretty sure some of his of what he said here got a little lost, because I have no idea because he mentions about Issei and how he knows to handle well, but he never mentions who the second lieutenant is that he wants. I'm assuming maybe it's Naho. I couldn't really tell just from listening to the Japanese audio, but yeah, the subtitles were a bit weird here in this section of the episode. And the council was like, oh, this is preposterous. There's having two lieutenants, and then Shuhei says that he has the power to decide who becomes lieutenant. You decided that, remember? Which I thought was pretty funny. And so then he says, now, may I proceed with my first task as his captain, which his first task is going to be letting Kenpachi learn Zanjutsu, if I pronounced that right. The council is like, oh, this is insane, this is preposterous, we can't let him learn. Now if he becomes more powerful than he is now, we can't stop if he revolts. And and then they bring up this one thing, which I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this is like the most Kenpachi thing ever, where he says, have you forgotten that we urged Genryu Usai to stop teaching him Kido after just one day? Bro, Kenpachi is so overpowered. It's so fucking hilarious, bro. And he's like, oh, do you got a better idea? Like, if at this rate, the Soul Society will not be able to survive another invasion. And Kenpachi is a very strong ally, so they obviously need to power him up as much as they possibly can so that they'll be more prepared for the second invasion. And so then the council members all shut up and they're all quiet. You know actually what this scene reminded me of? This scene actually reminded me of that scene from Avengers, you guys remember? When Nick Fury talked to, like, I guess the higher-ups or council members of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever, and all of them were like black silhouettes and you couldn't tell who they were. This scene kind of reminded me of that because, one, they all have like these boards in front of them, and we never actually see their faces ever in the actual episode. We see their mouth and we see a little bit of some of their eyes, but that's about it. We never see what their full face looks like, so we have no idea what these guys look like. So this whole section just kind of reminded me of that one scene from Avengers. And then he says, since I'm given permission, and that he knows who's going to handle this matter with Kenpachi, and he brings out Captain Unohana, and then he says, or should I say, the first Kenpachi, Yachiru Unohana. And then we get the shot of her face. This looked like it was ripped right out of the manga because of how the shadows were done. It looks exactly like Kubo's art style whenever he does like very harsh shadows for characters. It looked just like they just ripped it right out of the manga, man. It looked fantastic, man. I love what they did with her face. Now, as you guys heard her name, her actual first name is Yachiru. Who else shares the name Yachiru? Kenpachi's lieutenant. Now, this obviously begs the question, why do they both have the same first name? Now, it could just be all one massive coincidence that they both share the first name. Or this could mean that they both have some sort of connection together, especially given what Kenpachi says when he faces off against Unohana later on in the episode. Now, I have no idea what any of this means because, like I said, I'm an anime only. Yes, I know a handful of little details about the Blood War arc, but nothing really that major. Like this, I have no idea what's going on. And actually, funny story about this. You guys know that I'm a big fan of Bleach Brave. You guys know I've been covering it on the channel for years now. I've been doing summonings videos. I reacted to the new OP. I've been playing this game since 2017. I've been here since the second anniversary. I've been playing Brave Souls. Not as much as I used to. I've kind of been more or less kind of like I'll occasionally open the game. I don't play it as much as I used to, but when I was playing, but I still play a lot of Brave Souls. It's the one gacha game that always has me coming back, man. I fucking love Brave Souls. Honestly, probably the best mobile game that I've ever played, man, if you ask me, in my personal opinion. Anyway, I remember when Unohana was announced to be part of the second round, I believe it was the second round of the Thousand Year Blood War characters, I noticed her name always said Yachiru, and that was the same summons where Yachiru was on there. So I was wondering, why do they both say Yachiru? That's Yachiru, this is not Yachiru. I don't even know if I remember that was even Unohana, because, she looks completely different there compared to how she actually does in the actual show, as we see from right now. And I always just thought this was like some weird glitch from K-Lab that they just never fixed. But it seems like there is more to the story than originally meets the eye. So yeah, this definitely has me intrigued, and we'll probably learn more about this in the next episode as well, about her connection with Kenpachi, and maybe perhaps why her and Yachiru share the same first name. Who knows? But I found this very, very interesting. Then we get back to Ichigo and Renji fighting with each other, trying to see who will take the brunt of the fall. And then they're like, oh, you take the fall. No, you take the fall. What are you, Whisk? You take the fall. And then as they're arguing, Renji notices that Kon is like strapped right in the middle of Ichigo's kimono. And then that's when he just expands and cuts, and Kon gets super buff and basically works as a pillow to soften the blow for Ichigo and Renji as they get into the second Ganto Den, if I pronounce that right, which is Kiryo's Gakuton Den, and she's like, "Oh, welcome, Ichigo." And she comes out of nowhere, and she just basically launches Ichigo and Reggie off the cliff of it, and they're like both just hanging on like the edge, been trying to get back up. And Ichigo screams, and Ichigo screams, "Is there nobody but idiots in this place?" And then she starts cooking up the food, and bro, I don't know what is the secret sauce of the anime studio, but they always know how to make anime food look absolutely delicious and look like the greatest food you've ever seen. Whether it's Toei with Dragon Ball and One Piece for that matter, whether it's Period with Bleach, or it's with I'm slipping on the studio that does Food Wars. Shit, I can't remember their names, but that studio as well. They all make food look absolutely delicious, man. And so the same thing happens here with Bleach. She makes the food and then of course presents it to Renji and Ichigo, and they're both kind of shocked by how much food there is. It all looks amazing. Kon, he's slobbering around, his mouth is water. He's ready to dig in. He's ready to dig in for this food. So Kon's like, all right, let's eat. And then Ichigo stops him and says, there's no way they would just give us this food for no reason. He suspects that this is some excuse to start some ridiculous training. And then that's when Kiryu says, "Oh, it seems you've grown distrustful because of Urahara." Which, can you blame him? I mean, the man's staining Ichigo's walls in blood. I mean, can you blame the man for being a little bit paranoid about this? But she tells him that there's no catch to it, and that her job is to fill him up, as this is the palace of food. I wonder why. And so yeah, she says, "There's no catch. Y'all just eat up." And so Ichigo and Renji just start chowing down, man. Kon also gets to enjoy in the festivities well, which was nice to see, man. And like I said, the food just looks delicious as they all just start munching around. And then Renji finds this weird thing mixed in with the food from time to time. He eventually tries it. He's like, "Oh, it looks grotesque, but it actually tastes surprisingly awesome." And then he just kind of gives out this whole full-on food review on this thing, saying the way the aroma spreads throughout your mouth, it has an awesome texture to it, and it's just so awesome. And then Ichigo tells him, "Will you stop? Your terrible food criticism is ruining my meal." Which I just thought was funny. It also reminded me of that scene from Hero Aka Season 5. You guys remember when Izuku and the others were all eating at Todoroki's place, and Fujio or whatever or whoever Todoroki's sister's name was, I forget her name, made the Mapo tofu, and Izuku gives his full review of full analysis on it, and then Bakum interrupts midway saying to shut up, your day's ruining the Mapo tofu. Just reminded me of that, man. This scene was pretty funny, honestly. So then Ichigo drops his chopsticks, and Renji's like, "Oh, are you done eating? I could keep more." He's like, "You wait, I'm just taking a small break." And that's when Ichigo asks him, "This is what they really should be doing when they're." Is that they've been chilling around in a hot spring and now eating food. This is really what they should be doing when, of course, the Quincy's could have always come back at a moment. And Renji tells them, we both took a bath to heal our wounds, and now we're eating, and now we're hungry, now we're eating, so we can build our strength up for prepare for some tough training that lies ahead. This makes perfect sense. He's like, wow, you actually make good points every now and then, Renji's like, you this gets Renji mad. He tells him, if you agree, then eat some more. And then they both, Renji and Ichigo, pick up these absurdly huge bowls of food. Like, Renji looks like he has something with shrimp in it or some sort of shellfish, and Ichigo grabs something that looks like it's a bunch of like tempura in it. I have no idea what either of these meals are. If any of you guys know what either of these foods are, please leave it down in the comments. I am no expert on Japanese cuisine. They both looked amazing, to be fair, and they keep eating, and that's when Kiryu returns, now far slimmer and way bigger boobs. And she reiterates what Renji already said, and Ichigo and the others all react like we did, and stare at her blankly, and spit out their food. And as she continues explaining, basically reading what Renji said, we see Ichigo, Renji, and Koen are just staring at her, most likely at her boobs, which I won't be lying, I was too, because I mean, how can you not, bro? They're fucking huge. And so then all three of them ask, who are you? And she explains that whenever she uses all of her spiritual pressure when she cooks, and when that happens, she loses a ton of weight, meaning she looks like this now. And all I gotta say is, can we make sure her spiritual pressure stays this low for the rest of the series? I'm not gonna front, man. Listen, she kinda hot, bro. I would like to see this for the rest of the series, if that's possible, but probably not, bro. We'll probably switch back and forth between throughout the rest of the series, man. It honestly kind of reminded me of that one chick from Black Clover. You guys remember the one person, the Black Bulls, that also kind of like her whole magic thing is with cooking as well. I don't know, maybe the manga for Black Clover was also inspired by Kiryu in Bleach for when he created that character for Black Clover, because they do have similar power sets, and I'm pretty sure they also have a similar thing with weight as well, where they kind of work like that as well. So I don't know. I mean, the manga for Black Clover is a huge fan of Bleach, and mentioned that Bleach was a big inspiration for him. Hell, even if you I remember I saw a Twitter thread a while ago, like this was a few months ago, that had a bunch of other mangas drawing Bleach characters. When we got the Black Clover, I questioned if not just Kubo himself drew, because it looked so similar to Kubo style. But yeah, so I don't know if there was some similarities and he was inspired by this character in Bleach when he was creating Black Clover, but I know the similarities there between those two, man. Anyway, once they're back outside before they go to the next Gato Den, she explains that all members of Squad Zero have all created something that's still used by the Soul Society, and that she created the temporary souls. And the next palace they're going to be going to is where Oetsu Nimaya, if I'm pronouncing his name right, resides, and he is actually the one that created the Zanpakutos. So that's going to be interesting. That's probably where Ichigo's going to get his new Zanpakutos, perhaps. We'll have to wait and see on that. Anyway, after that, that's when we head over back to Kenpachi as he enters the Central Underground Great Prison, where he enters, and it has like this huge grandiose entrance too, like it's completely black. The gates, these giant ass like gears and shit, and the gates open up as Kenpachi walks inside with his sword on his shoulder, bro. It was also pretty badass to see. And inside, Unohana is in there waiting for him, and explains that the Mukin is closed off from the rest of the Soul Society and is infinitely large. Because of that, they can go completely all out without having to worry about the rest of the Soul Society. And because of that, then that's the only reason they could get inside. If not, they wouldn't have let non-criminals in here. And that's when Kenpachi laughs and says, non-criminals, if you and I weren't powerful, we'd just be ordinary criminals. And then that is when Unohana turns to Kenpachi, and we get to see what she actually looks like when she drops the veil of Ritsu Unohana, and we see Yatsuru Unohana. And bro, Kubo, bro, yo. This was one of the manga panels I have seen about the Blood War. Is that one panel when we see what Unohana really looks like, bro? Now, obviously, we saw parts of this already a couple episodes back when we saw the original Gote 13 and that image as well. But this is the first time we got when we saw this in the manga. And bro, I am shocked how close Period got. It's also been kind of crazy how accurate Period's been going to like for some of the manga panels and how hard they've been going for him. Like you had certain scenes that didn't look as detailed in the manga, like when Yamamoto uses Bankai, the shot when we actually see him with like his Bankai, everything. That did not look as good in the anime as in the manga. The detailing was not as detailed there, but obviously no shit. It's an anime. It's not going to be as detailed in the manga. But then we have shots like in this episode with Unohana that look basically they were ripped right out of the manga, man. It was honestly impressive. Shout out to the key animators that they had worked on this episode, man, because they did amazing work and basically perfectly emulated Kubo's manga panels for these two scenes, man. They looked like they were ripped right out of the manga, man. This shot in particular, especially, man, this shot looked absolutely incredible. Like, this also looked like just like how it did in the manga, man. And she looks so fucking creepy, man. It is crazy. And this, I think, really is a testament to how good Kubo is as an artist, you know? Is that, you know, when we first saw Unohana for Majority Series, she was always seemed like a nice woman, you know, kind of had a bit of a, I guess, a mother kind of aura to herself, man. She always just seemed like a kind person. But then we see what she actually looks like, and this bitch straight looks psychotic. The second you look at her, you want to run for the hills, bro. I saw this and I'm like, bro, bro, like, this shot is so fucking creepy, man. It is so creepy, man. Like, once again, shout out to the animators. They got work at Para work on this anime. They did amazing work here, especially for the key animation. Like I said, this looked like it was ripped right out of the manga, man. It's crazy how good this looked, man. And so, anyway, that's when they continue on, and she said, and then she questioned. She's one like, oh, you know, Kenpachi's quite talkative today, and she says that whenever he talks so much, and once again, we get another extremely creepy shot of Unohana's face, bro. Like she looks straight up psychotic, bro. Like it's crazy. This was the same person that we saw that kind of had like her hair all tied up and everything earlier on the series. That this is the same person. I mean, it's okay. Aizen was kind of the same thing where Aizen kind of had a similar kind of feel to him. Then we landed when, of course, he like slipped back his hair, man, and you know he looks so badass, man. But it's crazy how Kubo's been able to change his characters up this much, man. Just amazing artist, man. That man does not get the respect he deserves, man. Anyway, she continues on saying that the single scar that you gave me begins to ache whenever he talks. And so he tells her to shut up, that she was not the only one that got a scar. I guess he points to I'm pretty sure it was pointing the scar that's like right above, that's like right across his eye. Then that's when of course they draw their swords and of course start fighting each other. We get some more narration from Shuhei explaining about Unohana that she served as Captain 11 or captain of Squad 11 of the Gote 13. And before she was appointed by Yamamoto, she was the most notorious criminal in the Soul Society. And because of her dedication and her efficiency with the blade, she gave herself the name Yachiru, which translates to, I'm assuming given how it's written on the subtitles, 8,000 styles. So, and then we find out that he's a story they called Zanjutsu a lesson because one of them has to, when they cross their blades, one of them has to die. Now, if you play Brave Souls, you know neither one of these characters are dying yet. Considering in both their specials, we see both of their Bankais in their specials, and we haven't seen their Bankais yet in the show, so obviously, somehow, some way, they are going to survive this battle. How? Well, we don't know yet. Maybe they both do end up dying, and then they somehow get revived and brought back from the dead. Maybe they find some workaround to give them Zanjutsu without both of them dying, but we'll have to wait and see on that. All I know is that neither one of these characters, if they do die, they're not staying permanently dead. We'll have to wait and see on that where that goes. So once again, they're fighting each other. The animation looks incredible. We finally Yachiru, Kenpachi's lieutenant, finally get some screen time as we see both her and Asane get these last little, I guess, get these last little things left by Yamamoto, by Kenpachi and Unohana, left for the lieutenants. Unohana leaves Asane a message, and for Yachiru, it was his eye patch. So it was nice to finally see her get some screen time, man, because, we saw her in the OP, and we're like 9 episodes into the series, and we still haven't gotten any screen time for Yachiru, so it was nice to finally see her in the anime. I was like, finally, there she is. I was wondering when she was going to pop up. And we see Sane, she starts crying, and she's like, Captain Unohana, as they continue to fight on. Like I said, the animation looks absolutely incredible. She manages, it looked like she managed to cut Kenpachi in his neck. They lock swords once again, and she commends him for taking off his eye patch at the start of the fight. She backs away and then pulls out this just random sharp object. At first, I thought she might have managed to cut off half his Zanpakuto, and she was holding it, but no, his Zanpakuto was completely fine. So I don't know if this is from the minerals or rocks or whatever the fuck surrounds them in this place, but yeah, she pulls out some sharp object. There's one that's stuck in Kenpachi's shoulder as well. So yeah, I don't know where these things came from, but she says, oh, I can't believe someone who swings with only one arm wouldn't make use of their other arm. I can't imagine you're enjoying this fight. And so that's when he pulls it out. He says, what about you? You've changed quite a lot. From the person I admire, which I thought was very interesting, that Kenpachi actually admired Unohana. We learn more about this as the episode progressed, but I was like, oh, shit, this is getting interesting. Yo, what's Kenpachi talking about? And so then she screams right back at him, how dare you admire your enemy amidst the battle. So then they charge Eitora once again. She manages to knock Kenpachi's Zanpakuto out of his hand, and she's basically holding her Zanpakuto basically like an inch at last from his throat. And so that she hasn't changed at all. It's simply that she just didn't have the leeway to use such cheap tricks against them when they last fought. And that's when Kenpachi asks her, are you saying that I am the one that has gone weaker, and he says once again that I admired you, and he says no matter what, whether it was bugs, tree, or everything, it felt no different from swinging a sword while alone in the dark. But when he faced off against Unohana for the first time, it was the first time he felt fear and the joy of battle and he felt the joy of battle, and he wanted to fight just like her. And then that's when he says, are you saying I'm going to die here without ever beating you? And you actually get to see Kenpachi cry a single tear, which, yes, you see Kenpachi Zaraki, the baddest motherfucker in the entire Soul Society. Everybody fears this man. You actually get to see him cry. That was probably, outside of Unohana dropping her disguise or whatever you want to call it, we just see how psychotic she really is. This was probably the most shocking part of the entire episode, man, was actually seeing Kenpachi cry. I'm honestly probably going to do a double reaction to this episode just for this scene, also see what Unohana's dub VA does how she changes up her voice at all, or any, for when we see what Unohana actually looks like, man. Because I mean, it does suck that we won't be able to hear this from the original Kenpachi voice. He says there were prior engagements, and then he also said something about that he was willing to do this for even a lower pay, just for the fans, but Viz didn't want to call him or whatever. Whatever the case may be, man, Viz dropped the ball either way. I mean, I do like Patrick's Kenpachi voice. I thought his voice is good. I thought his voice was good. Obviously, I kind of prefer David a little bit more, but, I dig his Kenpachi enough voice where I'll be still having a lot of fun with him as Kenpachi for the rest of the series. So I'll be looking forward to seeing how he does the scene. I would prefer it was David, but hey, what can you do, man? Blame Viz, man. They're the one that doesn't want to make phone calls, apparently. Either way, man, she pierces his throat with her Zanpakuto, and then we just cut back to, I guess, what really is going on. I guess that was like some daydream or something, and they're once again still locking swords. It's like, oh, it appears you spaced out for a moment. Kenpachi, like the rest of us, is confused on what the hell is going on. He's like, who cares? I ain't got time to think right now. I need to focus on this battle. And then we end the episode up with her saying that you're not going to die. Each time you're on the verge of death, you grow stronger. That is the flaw you put upon yourself, and it's also my sin, as we finally get a title card for this episode. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where the episode ends. Phenomenal episode, man. Loved Unohana, especially. She was probably the highlight of the episode. Once again, major shouts to the key animators and all the animators who worked on this episode. Fantastic work from them, man. And yeah, we see what Unohana really looks like. Kenpachi admired her. And yeah, this episode's fucking insane, man. So yeah. Anyway, guys, overall, I give this episode a 9.5 out of 10, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. You like if you did, subscribe if you're new. Follow me on my socials if you feel like it. Links down in the description box below. And as always, come back for more. See you guys next time. She's